let's get on to our second speaker of this conference. So we have Bartosz Rajat, who works as a creative technologist at HSBC, where he connects design and technology work. He started off there as a UX and a UI designer, creating websites for well-known companies like Dr. Oetker, and later he became interested in coding and switched to being a front-end developer. At HSBC, Bartosz works in the design systems team. He's in great hands with his experience in both design and coding, and he brings a really unique perspective to solving technical problems. So if you have any questions for him while he's doing his presentation, please put them in the Q&A tab and we'll get to those at the end of this session. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Bartosz.
Okay, cool. Thank you for introduction me. Hey everyone. In this session, as said, I will cover useful information along with tips and tricks to get you started with design tokens. The webinar covers the basics of design tokens, but I think people with some experience will also find something for themselves. A refresher, a new way of thinking, or a supplement to their knowledge. I'm still learning about it myself. The structures are constantly changing, but some foundations have already been laid as an industry standard that are worth to talk about. So I will go quickly through it. I'm Bartosz, working at HSBC. As a creative technologist, which is a kind of mix of developer and designer. Like another name for this role is a UX engineer. Previously, I was working at Accenture Song and Move Closer, which is a local software house in Warsaw. So as you can see, my experience is quite wide from design to developer, but this gives me knowledge which is so useful in such areas like design tokens. So we are now moving to the agenda. It is quite packed presentation, so if I will go too fast, just let me know. I will try to adjust my pace, but yeah. Today we will cover the concept of design tokens and discuss their importance. We will explore the benefits and disadvantages associated with using design tokens. Together, we will create them. We will also look at different token types and naming conventions. And finally, we will have a live demo and a wrap up with summary of key points. So without further ado, let's go to talk about design tokens. And is it really for you? And why to even bother? But first, I want to ask you a question. Have you heard of design tokens and how much do you know about them? You can tap in the chat. Just if you want, just simply you can write yes or no. Okay. Yes, so I see a lot of people know something about that. So that's great. I hope there will be a lot of great questions too. Okay, so I want to say a little disclaimer that before we begin, design tokens are not Figma variables. However, one of the functionalities of Figma variables is enabling design tokens. Similar, but fundamentally different. We're gonna use Figma variables in the live demo as a representation of design tokens. Okay, so let's see the first use case where design tokens might help. Achieving, for example, is for achieving a unified design experience across all the platforms. So it's really nice to have it because it's crucial for user satisfaction and brand identity. We all know about that, especially when you have multiple apps like desktop, web, mobile, and like also others. We need to somehow ensure that our design and the implementation are cohesive, and regardless of the platform being used. So this is our first use case. The second one is the goal to create a design system that can be utilized across different markets and brands, like a true white label design system. So we have here two brands, brand A and brand B, both of which will benefit from the design system. So in the design system, there is like UX, the proper documentation, etc. But the visual representation will differ for which brand it is. And last but not least, if you want to solve issues like disconnection between design and development, which can hinder project progress, maintaining multiple sources of truth can lead to confusion and inefficiency. Another challenge is the lack of common language between tech and design teams, which can create misunderstandings. And lastly, managing a multi-branding design system can be a significant headache for teams. I think that those are quite common issues every design system wish to solve. And I hope that you will see, and you like from the chat, I see already that you are using design tokens. So you see probably also some benefits, and maybe one of those issues has been solved with those design tokens. So to maybe say like the proper definition of the design tokens, let me read this. So design tokens are atoms that represent visual design attributes and logics. They are maintained in an agnostic format and being linked to as the single source of truth. So cool, but you might ask, why does it that even mean? So let me break down some parts. The first part is the atoms. So the design tokens are the tiniest element that form design through all levels. So if you are also familiar with, for example, atomic design, you may even know more what does it mean. The second thing is visual design attributes. That means that design tokens describe any type of visual design decisions, including colors, typography, and spacing. The next thing is logic, and as an example, it can be a functionality where you can reference other tokens. So, but I will say more on that later. And also about the agnostic format. It's like an abstracted JSON format following industry standard, which is W3C, as a common language ready to scale anywhere. So like sometimes it feels that something is missing between design and technology to communicate some decisions. So if we zoom in, we can see that it turns out to be a JSON file which is agnostic and can be applied everywhere, of course, with some tools. And there's a thing called Design Tokens Community Group. They're preparing a W3C design token standard for JSON files for design tokens. Keep an eye on it because you have to use it if you want to do a proper implementation of design tokens. This documentation is quite technical, but it is crucial to set a common ground for all design systems, tools, plugins, and etc. It is still in draft, so expect some changes, but this might really help you. And also, I recommend it also as a designer, if you're a designer, to check it out. Probably you will understand it, so don't worry about that. Okay, so coming back to our definition, I have one more thing to explain, which is a single source of truth. So it's a centralized design token, we can centralize our design tokens in order to maintain the consistency across. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen.
Bartosz, I can see the screen absolutely fine. So please proceed as usual. That's fine. As long as can you see it all okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Thank you for that. So yeah, single source of truth. let me go to the example. So here we have our example. The design tokens are stored in the JSON format, which is accessible via GitHub or other Git platform, or even that can be some kind of database hosting server, or it can be even Excel file. But yeah, do that if you like to play with fire. And this approach allows for seamless integration with various platforms, including Figma, CSS, Swift for iOS, and Kotlin for Android. And also here, there's like this little thing, transformer. It helps to facilitate the flow of the design tokens to these different environments. So yeah, this is the end of our definition. I hope that it clarifies what the design tokens are about and where it might help you. Yeah, we said our common ground now. So, but why not to talk about some more benefits and some disadvantages, of course. So directly relying on brand styles names may not be ideal for designers. Someone might love fancy names like Sugar Cookie, Mustard, Royal Blue, or Ballet Sleeper. Those are real colors. And however, like those style names are often neutral and lack clear guidance on their specific use, which can lead to challenges as less straightforward. You need to rely on your muscle memory because you need to memorize all those fancy names. And there's also a room of ambiguity. Like for example, maybe for someone mustard is a red color, not orange. So there's like some issues regarding this. So why not introduce a new layer that describes the use case? So when working with styles, you probably assign here directly a gray value, which might be more than enough to make things. However, it is not very scalable solution. So a good idea would be to introduce an additional layer. Here we are assigning gray value to the color text secondary value, and the text and the color text secondary is used in the UI. It gives you more meaningful explanation on what this color do and for what it is used. So as the name says, it's a color for text, which are secondary in hierarchy. And there's like another example for the black color, which is here a primary color for this screen. So as you may reckon, this gives us some benefits. One of which is multi-theming, dark light theme as example. You can also have you will also have a common language with developers or designers, and this is really beneficial when it comes to the design dev handover. So you can also see here that designers can see those tokens in Figma like that. In the Figma dev mode, developers can preview it like this and just copy this code into their code base, and that will be working for them. Another benefit is that you can create automated workflow, and when you edit design tokens, whether in Figma or code, you can create an automatic workflow where the changes will be applied everywhere. But I know that you can do in Figma with the REST API, but the REST API is in the enterprise pricing. So if your company is using that, it's recommended to use this REST API to make things better. So design tokens can be useful in a lot of use cases, helping creating much better design systems. However, with great power comes great responsibility, as a wise man said. I mean, like sometimes it might be an overkill where you shouldn't implement it. So here are some disadvantages. One of which is like this is adding a complexity to your system. so your project or design system will become more complex. And also the implementation is time consuming. Of course, it can vary. It can vary on the scale of your design system or project, but usually that takes significant time and effort, requiring alignment across teams like design development and product management, especially in early stages when everything needs to set off. Okay, so there's like so with that said, we all know if we want to create design tokens in our design system or not. But let's assume that you are not afraid of those disadvantages and see a lot of benefits that come with it. So why not to create a design token together? Shall we? Starting with blank page, first thing we need is, of course, a token name. The name property should be unique, and this will help designers and developers apply consistent style across a project. So it is very important to have a proper token name. Sometimes it can be difficult to change the token name later. It depends on the structure, but it is important to think it through. Next is the type property and value property. The type is categorizing this design token to like specific category. There are like regular types and composition types, but I will say later about that. And value property, which specifies the token's value. Each type has its own requirement regarding how the value should be stored. Last but not least, the description property, which is optional. It is recommended to have a description for the design token, but since sometimes we might have tight deadlines, we can skip this part and do it later. But I highly recommend doing it in one go. You will thank yourself later, trust me. So there we have it, our first token. Tokens might also have some other properties. For example, there's an extension property, which is special because you can have whatever value you want, but should be user, team, or vendor specific data. But this is for more complex stuff. And here we have it represented in the JSON file, which is compatible with with the latest W3C or DTCG, which stands for Design Token Community Group format. So let's talk about a little bit about token types and composite types. As you already worked on in the previous slides, this property is a declaration of what kind of value are permissible for that token. This is, this is similar to typing in programming languages like Java or TypeScript, where a value not compatible with the declared type causes a compilation error. So yeah, so then you need to change and to match the requirements for this specific type. So we have types that are regular. Those types are the ones that can store singular value. And for example, the value of a color token is just one color. However, there are other aspects of UI designs that are a combination of multiple values. For instance, a shadow style is a combination of color, X, Y offsets, a blue radius, and a spread radius. Here we have typography, which has a font family, where we have like a font family singular token type, font size, which is dimension, font weight, which is also another design token type, letter spacing, which is dimension, and line height, which is a number type, because this is a multiplication of the font size. Here are the rest of the types. You can find it on the DTCG format. And like there will be there will be described like how you need to set up your value for each particular token type. So we have already a lot of those types, but more are incoming. I'll take a little bit of water. Stay hydrated. So now we are moving to the most important part when it comes to the design tokens. This is also a thing where you will spend the most of time with or without your team. So let's start with primitive design tokens, also known as brand, global, and core design tokens. Usually they are brand specific styles like color, spacing, typography, attributes, and etc. So if you are working in the larger organization, then this might come from a brand team. Overall, this is a place where you are storing values which are related to the brand or project, etc. And here we have, for example, brand white, brand DNA pink with other shades, and also brand black. Sometimes you don't even need this layer. However, this is quite usually a case that you already have this kind of styles. The next thing is semantic design tokens, also known as alias. And here we are removing ambiguity of primitive design tokens, and we are adding a meaningful layer to the value. Often those design tokens are referencing primitive design tokens, but actually in some design systems, it might be required, in some design system, it might be required that a semantic token needs to reference or have to reference a value from a brand, but that not is always the case. Fixed values can be enough sometimes. So a little more about the referencing. As you can see, I have updated a little bit our previous tokens to this naming convention, which is using dots to separate sections in the token. I will say more on that later. And as I previously said, tokens value can be a reference to another token. The same value can have multiple names or references. Here a semantic primary is referencing a token named brand DNA pink 500. In that configuration, semantic color primary will take whatever value is it in this brand token. This powerful functionality can be useful in many areas, one of which is already mentioned, multi-theming. So here we have two themes, pink and blue. Our semantic token can reference a token from pink theme and blue theme at the same time. You might now realize that in that approach, we can assign this semantic token to the area we want once. And when we will change a theme, the value will be changed automatically too. So take a look at this example. We have our blue theme enabled and bam. With just a switch, it has changed its color to the pink theme. Also, as you may have noticed, we need to use semantic token in our UI, not the one that comes from the brand, because as you can see, each brand can have a different name. So it is not possible to apply a different theme to it. We need some kind of proxy, which is this semantic design token. And now we can add one more layer, which is called component. It is totally optional. Use it when you really need it. If don't, just stick to brand and semantic. Otherwise, it might be an overkill. However, this layer, you can do more with this layer. You can do more complicated logic for a design token structure. As the name says, it is used in component. In this example, those component tokens are for button. Okay, so you might ask how to create a design token name. You already saw one of the methods with dots, but there is logic behind it. Before I'm gonna talk about that, you need to remember one simple rule. Keep it simple, stupid. This principle is often used by engineers and it fits here very well. This is very important because you will thank yourself later. Design tokens might get very complicated, but you have to try to make it as simple as possible. Just remember that. So let's see how we might answer the question, how to create design token name, or just simply set up a proper naming convention. And as a little disclaimer, actually, just remind myself, it is not the presentation, but I think that it's not in the presentation, but I think it's worth to mention. The naming convention should suit you, your team, and your design system or project. Don't just copy and paste it without thinking, because simply it might not work for you. So there are a couple of approaches how you can start. BEM approach stands for block element modifier. It is often used to name CSS classes in the web. However, this can be also used for design tokens. Second one is the CTI approach, and CTI stands for category, type, and item. You can see that there is no change in the naming of design token. However, it is changing the meaning on how the token is named. Maybe there are some differences. I will leave it to find for you. But the most important thing that you and your team should be on the same page. And you should have a proper naming convention on how to write names for design tokens. Overall, just start with playing with names. There are already great resources that you can use to play around with it. The design system guide is a solid one. And in this picture, you can see that we have more things that we can use when naming a token. A context is often used to describe in which layer the token sits, for example, semantic, or you can also see the brand and system and product. Category is just a token type. Subcategory, it might be optional in your system or not. Component might be only used in the component layer, but it can sit also in other, why not? And then role, state, and surface. So you can see there is a lot of options to create a token name, but don't forget about KEYS principle. Keep it simple. If you don't need something, don't use it. Sometimes just a 3 parts of naming convention will be enough for you to create robust design tokens for your design system. Another great approach is to make up a story. In this example, we are creating a background color. So let's read it. I need the color for the background button for the base theme. The button has the default role. I need it in all states: active, hover, focus, and disabled. And with this, I have a little quiz for you. Please, if you will type in the chat how this token will look like based on that story. So how you will create the name for this token. Color, background cover. That's great approach. Color, background, button, base. Also great. Color. Yeah, so I see like everyone have their own approach. So you can already see that everyone can think differently about how to name this design token. So it is really important that you and your team is on the same page, like how you are naming, how the sections in this naming convention is like used for. Color primary background active, also great. I would, for example, I would create a base dot color, sorry, base dot color dot background dot button dot default dot active for the active state, and three more for the hover, focus, and disable too. Okay, great. Thank you for your answers. So let's take a look in the on the example. And Zalando is using just 4 parts for the naming convention in the semantic layer. It is cool that such a big company is using just 4 sections in the logic behind naming convention. And you can see that they are not overcomplicated this, just keep it simple and it is enough. And probably when they will see maybe some kind of use case where they will need more sections to the naming convention, then probably they're gonna add it somehow. But also you can search for lots of other examples in open documentations for well-known design systems like Salesforce. And by the way, Salesforce, they were first to use the design tokens term. Atlassian, Adobe, or Google Material Design, Google's Material Design 3. Here is a great resource to start playing around with the naming convention. It is from the Design System Guide, and I can highly recommend it to you. Okay. I want to present 2 common structures. First is two-theme structure. It can be used for light mode and dark mode switch, or just when you need to switch between two brands. Great for simple and complex design systems. Another structure, which is way more complex, is pyramid or 3 tiers layers structure. And here it is recommended to use for complex design systems. So this structure adds like a complexity to a design system, which might be a bad idea. However, this approach enrich design tokens information and might be beneficial for internal designers and developers. So it's really for the specific needs of your design system or project. And also this enables more possibilities. And for instance, here you can apply some advanced logic for referencing tokens or create a variation of this structure. So you can see that the naming convention is such a big part in the process of creating design tokens. Now, with this information, we can move to the implementation. To manage design tokens, you need some tools. Lots of them are time savers or just simple enough to manage a small amount of design tokens. Here are my recommendations where you can manage design tokens. First is Figma. So you can easily, as I said, like a couple slides ago, you can easily document and manage design tokens via Figma variables. And Figma also offers dev tools for better handoff. Lots of plugins which can enhance your experience, and last but not least, the already mentioned REST API for better automation, but it's only for enterprise plans. Another tool is Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, or Airtable. Those are wonderful tools which are easy to use. Everyone has it, maybe not Airtable, but also this file, the Excel or Google Sheets, might be your source of truth, where you store all design tokens. This is also possible. If you have a JSON file, you can visualize that in the JSON crack web app. Sorry. Also, you can create your custom documentation website. This is for more complex solutions. You can always develop your own documentation, and even maybe you can add functionality where you can manipulate it from the UI perspective, not in the code. So yeah, really nice thing to think about. Or you can just manually edit this JSON file in Notepad even. Okay. So previously, so how like other platforms can use design tokens? Previously on the diagram that I show, there was like JSON file and also this thing called transformer. So the transformer can be this star dictionary package. And this is a package that enables you to parse and transform your design tokens and then export them to any platform you want. Also, maybe that might be useful. You can import the design tokens or export them from Figma using some plugins. I recommend the Design Tokens Manager by Wenju Lee and also Design Tokens by Lucas Opperman. Also, I'm working on a thing on the plugin, so yeah, maybe I will share it someday. Okay, so now we have our presentation, we have our knowledge. Let's go to do a live demo. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. Is my screen shared? I think yes.
Yes, I can see your screen. It does have the Design DNA conference on the left-hand side, and then the right-hand side, it also has as well. Is that what's supposed to be showing?
Exactly. Yes, because
Perfect.
I reconstructed the page for this live demo just to show you some cool things. So this or maybe also Figma will be, yes. So we will start with Figma. So we have our live demo and I reconstructed the page of our conference in Figma. And our goal will be to create a missing element, which will be a footer on this web page and add a new theme. So yeah, so now let's imagine that you're a designer who is working on a project that already has design tokens applied. So let's create a footer and you will see how simple it is to do. So let's create a frame. Let's call it footer. And right off the bat, we can assign the token to the background. So let's set up an accent color, which is this darker color, and we can move it to our page. Let's fill the container. We can remove also from this page padding from the bottom, and you can see that the padding also have already design token applied. And you can see, sorry, here we are talking about Figma variables, which are design tokens. So to recognize that there is like a Figma token applied, you can see that there's like a different layout to it. Like values can have, you can do something like that. But if the Figma variable is applied, then there's like a rectangle around it. So we can remove it. We don't need it. And that's great. We can add a text to it. I prepare here some resources. Yes. And here, for example, I have also typography. And typography is, as you remember, a composite type. How I made it? You can use the styles And here in styles, you can apply your Figma variables that you defined. So for example, here I have semantic Figma variable with font family, space grotesque, and also the font weight and the font size. So we are like connecting those regular types to the composition types, and we are creating this composite token. So yes, I already applied a body. Yeah, let's stick with body. Let's add it here. Let's maybe do a auto layout. Here I will assign the page margin, which is applied to every section on this page, and also top and bottom padding. So you can see that I have displayed also these brand tokens, but I'm not using because this is in the same file. If that will be outside, you can easily hide those brand tokens. If I don't want my users that are using design system to use that, it's very easy to do. But mainly, I just want to add. I want to always take from the semantic layer the tokens. In this example, of course. And maybe I will also want to add this Figma icon. Okay, let's make it auto. And you can see that it's dark, so why not to make it white to make it visible? But I don't have a Figma variable for it. So I can go to the local variables. You can see that I have collection for primitive values which are taken from the brand. Background color, border color, primary color from brand, which is just a brand color, toned, dark primary, black. I can also type here some fancy names. But here in tokens, we have a semantic. And I want to add now Figma variable. No, not this thing. Sorry. I want to create a variable for icon. So I can type icon slash primary. Slash, it means that before the slash, it will be a group where this token will be stored. So now I have created this primary color, and also maybe duplicate this variable to make primary on surface, which is just this is just a primary color for the things that are on the darker background. And now I want to assign a brand color, which I will take from library. For the primary, I want black. And from primary on surface, I want white. Okay, so now we have our semantic color icon tokens or Figma variables. I can also set a scope, so it will be only visible for the things that are in scope here. So I want it only for frame, shape, and stroke. Let's close it. And we can now assign our Figma variable to this icon. You can also type icon here and click it, and we have it. Cool. So now we are done with Figma. By the way, I will also show you how you make your brand tokens hidden. So you can select all the tokens that you have here and change the details. And here's a checkbox where you can hide from publishing. Also, a great way is just to use before brand a dot, for example, or underscore. I think it also works. then you don't need to individually check this checkbox, but you can also do it here, and also in this collection similar stuff dot or this little thing. I forgot the name. Okay, so for now we are done with Figma, and now you can see that on our website. Right. Okay, on our website we don't have this footer, and we want to add it to our code. So the thing that we can do is go to dev mode, click on this footer, and here I am using this amazing plugin, which is Auto HTML, and it's just giving me HTML tags that I can copy, and also CSS, which is way better than this native from Figma, because it also includes the nested elements in this footer or other element. So yes, so I'm gonna copy footer. I'll put it at the end of this page. So change this tag footer. Now you see it's updated, but we are missing the styling. So let's copy it and paste to our style CSS. That's at the end of this document. Okay, it's working. There is one thing that I need to adjust because this plugin it's not perfect because it's adding this white color to strokes. So I need to just remove it manually quickly because it is not applying that way the design tokens later, and it will be hard to make a change. So I want to delete it. And now you can see that, yeah, we are missing this icon, but later we will need also add those new design tokens for icon to our code base. Also, let's adjust the landing page class. So now to export our tokens or Figma variables, sorry that I am like switching between those. You can use design tokens manager that I mentioned in the presentation. It's loading, and with the really nice plugin, and with this click, we can export tokens, and that's cool. We can, you can see here, we have manifest JSON file, which is not important for now, but also we have JSON file for every collection we have and every mode we have in Figma. So I'm gonna just copy this for tokens collection because here we have all the semantic values. I'm gonna, I'm gonna paste it to my JSON file and I will take the tokens for the icon and put it in the right place, which is here. So you can see like I have a lot of those icons for the brand and for the semantic. And now I'm gonna save it, run a script, which is using style. I already mentioned this style dictionary. This is a simple configuration. We are just mentioning our source file, which is DNA tokens here, for which platform is it CSS, the output file, and also what format we want. So this is a CSS variables. Selector is not important for now, but this will allow me later to switch between the themes. So now I'm gonna run this script. And here also I need to add for the Figma icon a stroke color, which will come from in CSS variables. So semantic color icon.
Hi, Bartosz. Sorry to interrupt. I know you're in the flow of your demo.
Yes.
Are you okay to finish the demo in the next couple of minutes, just so we've got some time to ask some questions before we finish the session? Is that okay?
Okay. I will try. I will try to finish it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah. Sorry for also like taking it long, but yeah, a lot of things to share. So yeah, so you can see that our icon is working now. It's taking color from our JSON file and from the design tokens. But now let's maybe add a new mode. So here in the tokens, we can add a new mode, and let's call it design DNA dark mode. And you will see like how quickly it can be done. So for example, we can set semantic color background to dark primary, accent color to this white, highlighted to black, and also switch those tokens. Also, maybe for the presentation purpose, I will change the dimension a little bit. Sorry for running, but this is a cool feature that I want to show you. Okay, so now we have our mode, and yeah, like with this couple of seconds, I just made a dark theme where you can select it here. It's not perfect. I would need to adjust the logo, but yeah, it's working. So now let's export it once again. We have our design tokens dark mode. I'm gonna copy it, create a new file, which is DNA dark tokens JSON. Paste it here. Also, I will take from this file a brand tokens because I will need it. Next thing is to adjust a little bit our script. I will copy it and paste it with just different sources. Dark, and let's say here, dark, and I will add also a star sheet here. Let's run our script. Okay, and you see in a couple of like, I don't know, that was just 1 minute. I can just do this thing, dark, and we have our dark mode. So yeah, so this was my demo. I'm gonna go back to presentation now. Okay. Yes. Okay, quick summary now. Yeah, so we talk about design tokens, the definition of it, the design token community group, structures that you can use, the functionality behind the referencing tokens, that you need to keep it simple all the time. Especially the naming convention. There are tools that are converting those JSON files to those CSS styles. We talk about regular types and composite types, and also about a single source of truth, which in the demo, the Figma was this single source of truth because I managed the tokens there. And also I could export it to the CSS where I use it in the web. So now I have some time. I hope I have some time to answer some questions.
Thank you so much, Bartosz, for delivering that presentation and that demo. Sorry that I had to cut you short a little bit, but thank you so much for delivering that to time. We've got a time for a couple of moments just to answer a couple of questions that have come in. Firstly, so Matus has asked, how do you stay updated with the latest advancements in design systems and design tokens?
So it's like you can search blogs in Medium, for example. There's like a lot of people that are talking about design tokens and like how to implement it and what is like changing. But I think the most important stuff is this documentation from the design tokens community group, where are they establishing those common grants that everyone is using. So I think this is the most important stuff. But yeah, you need to search for some things by yourself. Unfortunately, there's like no one source where you can see like all the plugins, all the stuff that are on design tokens. But I think it's simple to search for it. So, and yeah, and also you can go and see some presentation on the Figma config, because some people and brands were talking about that. So this is also a great resource that you can use to create
That's
the tokens. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering that question. And Carol has asked, what were the most difficult problems you face when tokenizing successfully a design system, if you have done that before?
Uh, I think the naming convention was the hardest part. So it's the thing that, yeah, as already said, you need to I think about like very well. A lot, like you need to do like a lot of workshops with your people. Been there, done that. Like lots of rounds to check if this is great for you, for your team, and also for this like other people from your company. So I think that was the biggest challenge, just to have this naming convention in place and like stick to it.
That's great. Thank you so much. And the last question from me, what is the key takeaway that you want everyone to take from your presentation today?
Yeah, so you don't need to apply design tokens to your design system if you don't need it, because yeah, this is just a new way of doing old stuff. I would say. uh, but because you can add a complexity where it's not needed. However, yeah, you can see that there's like a lot of benefits that comes with it. So yeah, so I highly recommend to check this out. uh, Maybe like some other presentations and blog posts, how people are using this. Also check the designs, like other design system documentation on how they are using that. Oh, by the way, this is also a great source to check what is like changing in this design tokens topic.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering that final question.